Hi, Steel Fellows here. Welcome. We're running this series on Facebook where we're looking at what your body could be telling you if you were listening. I'm a health explorer and co-founder of Total Wellness Club. And thanks for joining me as I delve into the possibility that bad health could be avoidable. In this series, we're going to explore the possibility that ill health could be avoidable. But before I go on, I just want to say that I'm not a doctor or a health expert, and what I'm going to be sharing in this video is my knowledge and my understanding and experience from exploring my own health and my family's health, and also my understanding from working with a number of natural wellness providers over the last decade. If I say something and you want to try it, you want to explore it, then please go for it. But if I say something you don't agree with, then you're welcome to ignore it, but just find what works for you. In this episode, we're going to look at what your body might be telling you about your through your skin conditions. So we're going to look at things like acne, we're going to look at eczema and psoriasis. We're going to talk about those things. And look at what they could be telling you about what's going on the inside. So my question this week is, what is it that your body is trying to tell you when you have skin flare-ups? I suffered from eczema until my early to mid-teens. Mostly I suffered from it on my arms, mostly in this sort of little area of my wrist here, but also occasionally in other parts of my body as well. And from about the age of 13, I also suffered from acne until I was about 17. And then even in my mid to 20s, 30s, 40s, I would still have flare-ups occasionally of the odd few spots here and there. In the comments below, tell us what skin conditions you're suffering from. And also, if you're a wellness provider, feel free to pitch in, share with people what you've come across, what's worked for you, what's worked for your clients, and then we can all learn from that combined knowledge and experience. Over the years, I've come to believe that when something goes wrong in your body has a way of telling you that something is wrong. And going back, I didn't necessarily know what was wrong with me to begin with, but what I can say these days is that if I've got something that's persisting, I will start to ask some questions about it. And I certainly didn't know what my body was trying to tell me all those years ago about eczema or acne as a teenager. And as I remember it, I'd go to my doctor, and my doctor would tell me that this is just something that happens. It happens to some people, and they just sort of give you the cream, they give you the tablets, they tell you to go and get on with it. And I doubt that it's very different today. I bet there are a lot of mums and dads who have been along to the doctor's given them cream or some other medication, and they're giving it to their children, and maybe rubbing treatments onto the skin. That treatment is being absorbed by the skin, and anything that's toxic within that medication will of course go into the bloodstream, and obviously if you're using it day to day, could potentially cause other harms and other problems later on. So I grew up feeling a bit powerless and thinking that there was just one way that I could go forward, and this was the way that it was going to be. And I took the cream, and most of the time it relieved the symptoms of eczema to some extent, and took the tablets, and got the face washes and the creams and all that for the acne. And whilst the creams with eczema did actually work, and I was very grateful at times when you have that flare up, you do want to do something immediately to try to alleviate that. But with the acne, we never got to the bottom of that. It never really cleared up. And I thought I was going to be stuck with these things for life, certainly the skin conditions. I thought that I was just going to be sort of stuck with it. And I think that this would also be quite true for, say, lots of mums and dads whose kids maybe are suffering from those things right now. I would have been open to healing myself naturally if someone had suggested to me that that was a possibility, if it's just as simple as maybe changing of food, adding something into your diet or taking something out of it, or maybe trying a new habit of some sort, I would have been open to giving that a bit of a shot. Certainly would be as I've got older as well. With the body, the way that I look at it is that if something isn't right, the body is trying to tell you something, and a skin condition could be telling you that maybe your body just lacks a nutrient or it's struggling to manage something. And as I said, I struggled with acne in my teens, and as you can imagine, I got called pretty much every name available to do with spots when I was at school. So it was a pretty miserable 4 or 5 years that I had. Waking up in the morning, having had a new outbreak of spots overnight, you just knew that when you went into school the next day that unfortunately you were going to get ribbed all day long. So I would just want to disappear, and I would try and get through the day without really getting noticed if I possibly could. You just knew, you learned if you said something smart, you drew attention to yourself, and you were going to get sort of ribbed by all the other kids all day long. So I spent a small fortune, I think, back in those days of my pocket money and probably money from my parents, trying to cure this acne problem with creams and face washes. And I did have trips to the doctors, and they gave me some sort of medication for it as well. And as I mentioned, until recently, I can still get outbreaks of spots. So this wasn't just a teenage thing that I was suffering from. So medicine never really got to the heart of the problem, but a DNA test that I took did actually do that. A DNA test actually highlighted that what was happening was that my body was struggling with detoxification. So before I go on, I want to remind you that I'm not an expert, I'm not a doctor, I've got no qualifications in health and well-being. I've just got my own knowledge and my own experience. As I say, working with and around other wellness practitioners as well, you do absorb quite a lot of information. So if I say something that is useful to you, go ahead and try it. If you're skeptical, you don't like what I say, feel free to chuck out the idea, but just go and find something that works for you. So let me explain what I did about my body's difficulty to detoxify with acne. And actually, it's really simple how I've managed to solve this problem more recently. So what happens is the body needs to complete the job of detoxification. But for me, and possibly other acne sufferers, the gene that's needed to complete detoxification isn't present, or it's not switched on. Of course, the body still needs to detoxify, and for me, it does that through forcing the toxins out through my skin. So the nutritional DNA test that I got, the results that came back from that, the report that came back, it came back from a company called DNA Fit. Actually got one of DNA Fit's nice little kits here, just because of another campaign that we've been running recently to find the UK's best nutritionists. Because DNA Fit were so fundamental for helping me understand my health and well-being, I asked them if they wouldn't mind being one of the sponsors of that event. So DNA Fit helped us out with that campaign. So what their report showed me was that I needed to eat a minimum of 3 to 5 portions of cruciferous vegetables each week. Not long after getting that report, I was due to give a talk to 500 teenagers over the course of about 5 weeks. And within the 3-hour slot that we had to talk to the teenagers, I invited a nutritionist to come and join us. A nutritionist was related to Total Wellness Club. And on one of the mornings that I was due to give a talk, I'd just come back from a holiday the week before. And obviously when you're on holiday, sometimes your diet goes out the window a little bit. And mine had definitely done that at this time. So I woke up on this morning and I had an outbreak of spots that morning, which is just what you don't want to have happen when you've got to get up and give a public presentation. So that morning I was kind of maybe a bit more tuned into things. Certainly when the nutritionist said about the impact that cruciferous vegetables could have on acne, at that moment, the penny dropped for me. So basically, the gist of this is that I needed to eat more cruciferous vegetables. So cruciferous vegetables are cabbage, cauliflower, kale, broccoli, that kind of stuff. They're really good. They're really packed with vitamins A and C, and that's really good for healthy skin turnover. So these vegetables promote your body's natural ability to remove dangerous toxins from within it. So for me, I just needed to have 3 to 5 servings of these cruciferous vegetables every week. So if you want to cure acne, you could just try eating more of this kind of veg. If you're a parent and you want to help your children if they're suffering from acne, you could, of course, do this as well, just include more veg. Now, kids obviously often have resistance to vegetables. I know I've got I had 2 of my own. One's 25 now, one's 19. So I know they don't always want to eat vegetables. So we found clever ways of getting that into their food. But if you could experiment, if the kids were to experiment for 7 to 10 days, I just wonder what impact we could have that would help them. Or if you're an acne sufferer, I wonder what impact this could have on you. So what if you just tried it for just a week to 10 days and see what the impact is? Does the acne start to slow down? Does it start to clear up? Is your skin a little bit brighter than it was? And if you do try this, I want to invite you to come back and tell us in a few weeks what the results have been. Tell us what you did, tell us what you tried, and then tell us what happened. If you don't like these kind of vegetables, I've got very clever at hiding them. I got very clever at hiding them in my kids' food, and also I hide them in my own foods as well, due to some of the strong flavours that come from things like kale, for example. So what I do is I take a handful of kale and I just stick it into my NutriBullet or a blender. What I then do is I add in some frozen berries, I stick in a banana, I put some coconut milk in it, I put an avocado in it, because the banana and avocado creates a really nice kind of creamy texture. Chuck in some cashew nuts, and I'll have that twice a week, and it's really lush, it's very smooth, it's really tasty. And if you wanted to sweeten that a little bit more, you could also add in maybe 1 or 2 dried dates. It's sweet enough for me as it is, but if you've got a kind of a sweeter palate, then maybe you could just add in a couple of dates. The other thing that I do, I put broccoli and cauliflower into soup and blend it up. I used to make a really deep green soup that had lots of broccoli and things like kale and spinach and things like that in it. And I used to then blend all of that up. I'd call it Shrek soup to my kids. My kids, even these days, I had a message from my daughter the other day, and she said, "Dad, can you tell me what the ingredients are for your Shrek soup?" Even all these years later, my kids are still interested in eating that kind of thing. So you can hide it in that kind of way. You can sort of label it in a way that gets your kids interested as well. The other thing I sometimes do is I'll just break off a stem of raw broccoli, run under the tap, give it a quick rinse, and sometimes I'll just eat that as a snack. You can also dip it in hummus or something like that if you enjoy that kind of thing as well. So there are other ways that you can eat it, there are ways you can hide it, especially around Christmas, New Year, holidays, as I mentioned earlier on, or if I'm traveling. These are times where my diet can change, where I might not get all of the kind of veg that I'm talking about here in my diet, but also, you know, maybe 1 or 2 things might slip into my diet that wouldn't ordinarily be there as well. So again, once 48 hours or so after I've eaten something like that, sometimes I get a bit of a flare up of spots again with that. So this is a really good way of for me being able to manage it. Something else I do with kale as well, you can try, see if your kids take to it, or if you want to take to it yourself, if you're an acne sufferer, is I take some kale, I get something called tahini, which is like a smooth paste made from, I think, sesame seeds. Check obviously allergies if you've got an allergy to that. But I use that with some kale, put in some honey, some rice malt syrup, bit of chili, bit of salt, mix it all up in a bowl, and then I put it in the oven for about 20 minutes at 180 until the kale starts to crisp up a little bit. And that's a really nice snack sometimes to have in the evening, especially in the winter, when you're sitting down, maybe watching a movie or something like that. Something that I noticed is that if I drink alcohol and I hadn't eaten much in the way of cruciferous veg, I would have an outbreak of spots within the next 48 hours. But alcohol is not really the only problem. The other culprit that I've really noticed is sugar. Any product with lots of sugar in it could potentially trigger an outbreak of spots as well. But it could also be in other foods as well. You'll have to experiment to see what it is that your body is trying to get out of your system that it doesn't want to have in there. It could be dairy, it could be sugary drinks, it could be something else. You're just going to have to experiment with that a little bit. So if I had an outbreak of spots, what I would do is I would check my diet. I'd know that I probably slipped a little bit maybe on the cruciferous veg, and maybe there's something that crept into my diet that I don't really want to have there on an ongoing basis. So if you know someone who's suffering from acne, maybe a friend or maybe someone in the family, someone at school or college, and you think they might be open to some help with this, then please feel free to share this video with them, especially if they're open to ideas. Please share it with them, because this could actually save them all kinds of mental and emotional pain. You know, if kids in school do the kind of things to each other that we used to do when we were younger, you could actually help them to avoid quite a lot of unpleasantness in their life. With psoriasis and other skin conditions, I've got a limited amount of experience with this with my own children, so let me explain what we did, and I'll invite you to share your experiences with me as well. And if you're a health expert, please pitch in and tell us what you would recommend to help people with these conditions. With my kids, we found that one of them needed a diet change. They were grabbing the odd Coke here and there, and they were eating dairy, which just seemed to aggravate the condition. And also they had some challenges at school amongst sort of friends and teachers and that kind of thing. And if you imagine that, you know, they've been itching, the skin's broken, or there's an area of the skin that maybe is a bit drier or broken or a bit thinner, it can, you know, you get that kind of itchiness because of some stress, because that stress causes heat in the body, and it's just going to go to the area which is most susceptible. So you can imagine that diet plus stress can actually just cause a negative kind of cycle to get triggered. Now, I don't know why dairy would cause a skin condition, or why Coke would maybe cause psoriasis to flare up. It's just that those were two things that we tried, that we removed from the diet, that actually worked for one of my kids. It may be similar for you, might be a similar example to the example I was given with acne, and the body was just struggling with detoxification, and there was just too much for it to handle, so it kind of pumped it out through the skin. Maybe that's what it was. So please share your experiences below. Let's learn, let's get some combined knowledge here, and knowledge and experience of these conditions, both from you as people who are suffering from it, but also from experts as well. Perhaps you can give some opinion and ideas, so that we can all learn from that experience and knowledge. My business, Total Wellness Club, is all about helping people to solve the problem of preventable ill health. We've developed a platform called Questly, which is free for you to join. It's about helping you to think about your health and well-being at a deeper level. So good health really starts with developing your awareness. So it's about what do you know and what do you don't know, and getting clear on that kind of information, so that you can develop your awareness day to day from that place onwards. Also, if you've got a clear vision of where you want to take your health to, and you know what that looks like in the future, let's say you want to be healthy as you age, or you've got a health problem now that you just want to get rid of. If you've got a vision of what you would like that to be like, then you would then start to create the awareness that gets you there. You'll create the habits that will also get you there as well. Habit-based action is the key to making any kind of change in life. So Questly is free for you to join. It'll help you to identify which 10 areas of your health that you need to focus on. And then it works with you. We take you on quests to help you improve those areas of your life that you want to work on. So you can register for Questly just by going to questly.life right now. If you've also got a particular health issue or problem that you want help with, just let us know. Send us a message, put a note below. We read all of the comments, or send us an email or a private message. And we will point you in the direction of a resource or a professional. And if we recommend you to a professional, it will usually be someone who's got some excellent reviews on the Total Wellness Club platform, and they're reviews that come from their past clients. So we know that we're putting you in the hands of good people because their clients have said about them in the past. So if you need help, let us know so that we can help you with that. Last week we were speaking about common cold and how to avoid that, and we've been sharing ideas on that in a video, and other people have come in and they've shared their ideas as well on colds. So if you want to avoid a cold, or you've got a cold at the moment you want to get rid of and then never have colds again, or certainly reduce the amount of colds you have, then please go and take a look at that previous video from about 7-10 days ago. Next week we're going to be talking about injuries and how they occur and what you can do to avoid them. So we're talking here about muscle aches and pains, ligaments, tendons, all that kind of stuff we're going to be talking about next week. So enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next week.